Assalamu alaikum. In this video, you're going to learn about how and why I got into TPRS storytelling. Let's go. In 2010, I began teaching English at one of the local language schools in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Back then, I didn't know much about teaching, and that's why I relied heavily on textbooks such as Headway and Straightforward. In the beginning it was fine. I had beginner students and the exercises in the textbooks were pretty easy, but as my students progressed through beginner levels to higher ones, things started to get tough. There were too many nuances, too many tiny little differences in rules and grammar and stuff, and they were very confusing to my students, and it caused a lot of mental pain, and I could clearly see that. They would struggle doing some of the grammar drills and they would ask me questions, but even after getting the answers, most of them would be unable to do some of the exercises because they were focused only on grammar, not on meaning, but on rules. It was important to know the rules to be able to do the exercises, and that was such a pain in the neck, I tell you what. With tiny little nuances and subtle differences in rules, I felt like the textbooks were setting my students up for failure from the get-go. Some of them would ask me if it was really necessary to go through all the exercises as they were just too complicated. If you are a teacher who loves his or her job, you probably know that there is nothing worse than seeing your students get confused, struggle, and feel disappointed, thinking that language learning is just not for them. And this made me think, maybe I am the one to blame. Maybe my grammar knowledge is inadequate. So I decided to work on my grammar and found the green book which I had been looking for a long time. I can't really remember the exact title of the book, but I guess it was Advanced Grammar or something. Back then I was interested in grammar as I believed that was the only way to fluency. So I started doing the drills thinking that it would improve my grammar. And I remember one day I reached a unit called Articles and started doing the exercises. After some time, I began struggling because some of the exercises were just too difficult for me, in spite of the fact that I had been learning English for over 3 years already. So I thought maybe I should go to the back of the book where there are more details and rules. When I did, I had a rude awakening because there were at least 50 different rules for just one word with only 3 letters. The. Just one little word, but 50 different ways of use, 50 different situations, and 50 different rules. And they were completely different from one another. Use the before the names of these oceans and these streets in these countries, but don't use it before these things. I was like, what? Am I supposed to remember all these rules and be able to choose the correct one while talking to a native speaker and think about what to say next in order not to lose the flow of the conversation? Are you freaking kidding me? That's when I realized that something was absolutely wrong with these grammar books. This frustration, coupled with my students' struggles, led me to a turning point in my teaching career. The following week, I gave all of my grammar books away and then went into my classroom and said, you know what, I'm sick and tired of these textbooks, rules and all that, and I'm planning to change the way I teach, but I need your support. If you guys don't mind, we are going to concentrate on doing the things that we'd like to do to learn English. They all agreed and said that it would be awesome. They said, we're tired of these stupid books with these stupid rules too. I decided so because I had already started experimenting teaching English with movies at this point. However, it was one of the hardest decisions to make because now it was all up to me. I was 100% responsible for the lesson because I didn't have a textbook to rely on. I had no curriculum or a system to follow. That's why I felt so much pressure and was so overwhelmed that I could barely sleep at night. I had to prepare something for every hour of each and every class to make it more interesting for my students. I would start working at 8 o'clock in the morning and teach classes until 9 p.m. and even after that I would stay at work googling materials for my next class until midnight because my house was 15 minutes away from my workplace. It may sound like I'm boasting or something, but I'm just trying to paint the picture of how much I wanted to find a way to teach English without old and ineffective methods. And I just didn't want to go back and see my students frustrated and hopeless again. So I began doing research. I would Google things until midnight every single day, and even after work, I would come home and keep Googling on my little Nokia 7330 until 1 or 2 a.m. And this is absolutely no exaggeration, my friend. So I would Google things like how to learn English easily, English without grammar rules, how to learn English fast, how to learn this, how to learn that. This continued for a month or two at the very least, and one of those days I found a guy named AJ Hogue, and he said, "Stop studying grammar." I thought, "What? Stop studying grammar? How can you learn a language without grammar?" I was skeptical about this, even though I had already started teaching without rules, without grammar exercises. So yeah, this guy, he kept saying, stop studying grammar, instead start listening and reading. Since I was curious, I wanted to get to the bottom of this and find the method to his madness and began researching the guy. I found some of his audio lessons, which he called mini stories. So I listened to the mini stories and they were really different from other audios I had heard before. While telling a weird story, he would ask lots of questions, and I just didn't know why and how he was doing that. But I wanted to find a way to do the same in my class, and I thought, there must be a pattern. He must be following a certain pattern to ask these questions. You can't just ask questions taking them off of the air. There should be a system to follow. So I found 20 to 30 of these mini stories and began transcribing them word for word. I just sat down at my computer and started typing them down because I couldn't find the text version of the questions. After transcribing 10 or more stories, I still couldn't find the pattern. So I gave up on this super time consuming transcribing idea. AJ also had some podcasts called Effortless English Podcasts. You can Google it if you want to see it yourself. Anyway, since transcribing didn't work, I began searching for the answer in these podcasts, and in one of them he talked about a method he used to teach English, and it was called TPRS, which stands for Teaching Proficiency Through Reading and Storytelling. I have a video about TPRS on my channel, and it's on a playlist with some of the best TPRS videos on YouTube. Anyway, at first I didn't know what it was because I had never heard about it before. I knew Rosetta Stone, but TPRS sounded alien to me. So I started Googling and found hundreds of articles and videos of teachers using this method. That's when I had an aha moment because I knew I had finally found the answer. Guess what I did next? If you said research, then you got it. After reading about TPRS, I simply fell in love with it because I had never seen anything like it before, and it really was and is the best method ever. Do you know why? Because it's focused on meaning, on communication, and that's the purpose of learning a second language, isn't it? We learn languages to be able to communicate with other people, not to do grammar drills or repeat some dialogues. Most language learners I have personally met had only one purpose: to speak English fluently, even when they're planning to get into a university or college or travel abroad, their main goal is to be able to communicate in English, and that's what makes TPRS different from other methods out there. In TPRS, students use their target language from day one when they don't even know the alphabet yet. I have seen lots of methods and TPRS is very different. So I started using it in my class and my students liked it. And the best of all, I finally found the pattern to ask questions. It was called circling. So I learned that and have been using it for the past 5 years. It's probably the best thing ever to teach someone using questions and short stories. I also found that reading helps to reach fluency faster. Time and time again, other teachers and professors like Stephen Krashen said, you must listen and read. That is the only way to reach fluency, true fluency in another language. Thanks to TPRS, over the past 10 years, I have helped hundreds of students acquire English while having fun learning stories. They neither did grammar drills nor memorized any word lists, and this is what makes TPRS truly revolutionary. What's even better is that even those students who are slow to learn can learn a language with TPRS because it is so easy and interesting. Currently, I have a street graduate student, not a school graduate, and he openly admits that. When he started taking private lessons with me, he said, "Sir, I never studied at school because I'm really bad at learning. The street was my school, but I've had several language teachers so far, and they were unable to help. I hope you can help me." So, in order to test his knowledge, I gave him a starter level storybook with 200 new words. He said he couldn't understand anything. 8 lessons later, I gave him the same book, and after translating 2 pages without using his dictionary, he laughed and said, "Man, I'm on fire! I'm so good at this thing." And when I told him that it was the same story that he'd been unable to understand only 8 lessons prior to this, he was amazed and motivated at the same time. And just a few days ago, he had his 14th lesson and was able to retell an entire 200 new words long story in his own words in 30 minutes. He spoke English non-stop for 30 minutes, and it was one of the stories he couldn't even understand before. Susan Gross, a well-known TPRS teacher, once said, "Nothing motivates like success," and in TPRS, anybody can succeed, not just the gifted ones. This is another reason why my street graduate student has been able to pick up a great deal of English in only 1 month of learning and doesn't want to stop until he becomes fluent in the language. This is the reason why my students love me and my class. So, my final message to you is this. Whether you're struggling to teach a language to your students or your lessons have become dull and monotonous, which makes you walk into your classroom thinking, "Not another day of teaching, please." Try TPRS a few times in class only for 10 minutes or so just to dip a toe in the water. You don't have to go all in and throw away your textbooks before you give it a try a few times. In fact, moving away from something, be it grammar drills or some other type of exercises that you've been using for years, is not the most effective way to get into TPRS. Instead, take baby steps and see how you can incorporate it into your class little by little. I hope this video can help you take the first step and try TPRS in your class, and to help you get started, I put a link in the description to most important PDF files that every TPRS teacher should read. But if you are using TPRS or other similar methods, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to see more TPRS related videos. Thanks for watching. Peace.